We now turn our attention to Chapter 7, which talks about process strategy. So, let's get started. Process strategy is an organization's approach to transforming resources and raw materials into finished goods and services. The objective of a process strategy is to build a production process that meets customer requirements and product specifications within cost and other managerial constraints. Those might include current labor resources or even raw material resources. There are four basic process strategies that we often use for categorization. First is the process focused. Second is the repetitive focus. The third is product focus, and the final one is mass customization. You should be aware that these are broad classifications and there are various ways they can be implemented by different organizations. Also, this classification scheme, like all classification schemes, is not perfect, and in recent decades some organizations are really blurring the line between the categories. So, where did these categories come from? These categories were created by looking at two attributes of volume and variety. Using only two dimensions allows us to draw a nice picture. Here we have volume on the x-axis and variety on the y-axis. Low volume, high variety is what characterizes the process focus. Medium volume, medium variety is used to describe the repetitive focus. For product focus, we think of high volume and low variety. The final strategy, mass customization, attempts to provide both high volume and high variety. Notice that I also indicate a poor strategy on this picture. It would be low volume and low variety. Basically, that is saying that we are not making very many products, and when we do, they all look the same. It is probably difficult to stay in business with that type of strategy. So now let's look at each strategy in a bit more detail. First, we have the process focus. It's the low volume, high variety type. What that means is that we are doing all custom jobs. This process is also called a job shop or an intermittent process. A good example of a job shop is a machine shop, a place where custom metal parts are fabricated. Process-focused organizations use general-purpose equipment, or GPE, and highly skilled labor to run those machines. The machines, and the people running them, have a high degree of flexibility. Because each order that comes in is custom, product flows vary considerably. This fact makes it difficult to plan and schedule machine time for upcoming jobs. A hospital is a good example of the process focus, especially the operating room suites. Each surgery will be, hopefully, customized to the individual patient. Depending on the type of surgery, different flows through both the operating room and the recovery process will vary substantially. The next strategy is the repetitive focus. This is the classic assembly line strategy. Pre-assembled modules are used to create the finished product. These modules may be combined in various fashions in order to create many output options. But the modules restrict us from being fully customizable, meaning the repetitive focus has less flexibility than the process focus. However, with less flexibility, the repetitive focus gains efficiency of both the machines and the humans that are running them. The example of an assembly line or repetitive focus is Harley-Davidson. If you're not a motorcycle person, then you can think of car assembly lines like Toyota. The third strategy is the product focus. Here, facilities are organized by product. We are able to produce in high volume but low variety, and we want to have long continuous production runs before switching the line over to some new product. The production lines are often staffed by less skilled labor. There is also usually a high fixed cost but low variable cost, which is the reason we attempt to have long continuous production runs. One example of the product focus is Frito-Lay making potato chips. Very few inputs for one particular product, say regular salted chips, go in. Once we start making this style of chip, we want to keep making it for an extended period of time before switching over to a different style. The output variations might include changes in packaging. The example I like better is filling up Coca-Cola bottles. Once we start filling them up, we want to keep doing it for an extended period of time. Suppose we decided that we should switch the line over to Diet Coke instead. The cost of switching from one product to another can be quite expensive in terms of both time and money. This is where the high fixed costs usually come into play. Our final category for process strategy is mass customization. Here we are trying to combine the flexibility of the process focus with the efficiency of a product focus. We want to achieve both high volume and high variety. I sometimes think of this as trying to satisfy every customer or trying to be all things to all people. The typical example used for mass customization is Dell Computer. You order a customized computer and it arrives a few days later at your house.